Hi, good evening. My name is Scott Kuttner, and I'm with the City of Santa Ana's Office of Neighborhoods. And you have joined the South Main Corridor Neighborhoods meeting tonight, Thursday, December 3rd at 5:30 p.m. Via Zoom. We will be starting our meeting in just a couple of minutes as participants get situated and get their microphones and cameras working. All of our presenters are ready to go, and we to having a great discussion tonight. Hi, once again, my name is Scott Kuttner. I'm with the City of Santa Ana's Office of Neighborhoods, and welcome to our meeting tonight um, of South Main Corridor Neighborhoods in Santa Ana. I see we've got 15 attendees already have joined our meeting, and we will be starting in just a couple of minutes. We have all of our panelists and speakers ready to go. Our meeting agenda is on the screen, um, and we will also review um, ways to ask questions and participate and express yourself. And our meeting tonight is also, we're providing Spanish interpreting as well for our meeting tonight, and we'll provide instructions regarding that as well. So please stand by just for a couple of minutes and then we'll get started. Thank you so much. Once again, hi, my name is Scott Kuttner. I'm with Santa Ana's Neighborhood Initiatives Program, and we want to welcome Brittany and Celeste and Eileen to our meeting. Erica Gonzalez, Janelle Hardy, Luzana Figueroa, Mark Lopez, Raul Ramos, Selica, Tim Johnson, Veronica Castro, and there are a few of you that we just have phone numbers for. And so to the extent that you would like for us to call on you, we'll refer to the last four digits of your number, unless you want to go in and change the label associated with your user ID to include a name or something. Once again, we've got 16 attendees, and we'll be starting in just a couple of minutes here. At this time, I'm going through the roster of attendees, um, just allowing you to unmute your own mic when you'd like so that you're able to express yourself in your own words. So you may be receiving those requests, um, and that's what that's about.
Oh, cool. I'm back.
Okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Scott Kuttner. I'm with Santa Ana's Office of Neighborhoods, and you've joined the meeting of the South Main Corridor Neighborhoods. Our agenda is up on the screen. Um, I'm going to check with my colleagues. Margarita, are we ready to kick off the meeting at this point?
Yes, we should probably review with folks how to participate, just as a recap for those who are new.
So we'll have Alyssa Ventura from our office. We'll kind of go over ways to participate.
Hi, everyone. So for tonight, there are a few options to participate following the presentations. If you can use the raise your hand feature, if you want to get the organizer's attention, or if you have something to say during the meeting, you can also ask a question in the chat box or the Q&A box. So those are two ways that you can ask your questions or make any comments. And if you're dialing in only, press *9 to raise your hand and speak during the meeting.
Thank you, Alyssa. Can you also just provide a quick overview for our Spanish speakers and how they can access interpreting?
Yeah. Hola a todos, buenas noches. Hay interpretación que está disponible ahora. Entonces, para tener acceso a eso, lo que tiene que hacer es hacer clic en un círculo que va a ver abajo de su pantalla y va a escoger el idioma que es español. Entonces, sí hay interpretación ahora en la noche, en esta junta. Entonces, para accesar eso, va a tener que hacer clic en el círculo que está aquí y después escoger el idioma que es español. Y si tiene preguntas, por favor, escríbenos en el chat y ahí podemos contestar sus preguntas. Gracias.
Excellent.
Alyssa and Scott, I want one more thing. For the folks who are presenting, just keep in mind, because we're doing interpreting, if you can present slower than usual, that way we can capture the Spanish interpreting correctly. And also with the folks who want to voice your comments or ask questions, please give thought that we're doing interpreting. So if you can also ask it a little bit slowly, that way we can be able to have a successful interpreting for our Spanish speakers. Thank you. Gracias.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Margarita. We've got 21 attendees and all of our panelists ready to go. And so we're going to start our meeting at this point. Alyssa, if you could go back to the agenda for the meeting, and we can just quickly provide our attendees with an overview of what we'll be covering tonight. Thank you so much. So we have 3 agenda items tonight. We'll have a discussion followed by a Q&A regarding homelessness and activity along the South Main corridor, including the city's response and resources available. Our guests include the city's Homeless Services Manager, Terri Eggers, along with representatives from the Santa Ana Police Department, Commander Richard Weber, Sergeant Juan Montiel, and a representative from the city's quality of life team, Rick Velasquez, Corporal Rick Velasquez. And so each of these speakers and presenters are very, very knowledgeable in their areas of expertise. And so we hope this will be a very informative session for you. We also have an update from Santa Ana Unified regarding their K-8 optimization plan. And so, and then we'll follow that with a brief Q&A, and we'll try and be respectful of everybody's time tonight to make the best use of your time and to get all of your questions answered. So the purpose of this meeting, again, is for you as an attendee to sort of come away with your questions answered and to be better informed. And so we want to call upon you so you can ask your questions or have your questions considered by the various panelists. And so with that, I would like to introduce Terri Eggers, the city's Homeless Services Manager, who has a kind of a brief presentation that she'd like to kick off with. Terri?
I don't know where I find that presentation, Margarita, that I had submitted. Do you have that?
Okay, we'll just give
Yes,
you a minute, Terry, we'll just
Or
give
do
you a
I need
minute
to
to
pull that
locate
up?
that.
Okay, so yes,
you
let
want
me
to
introduce
pull
myself.
it up.
Okay. Okay, so I need to.
I just wanted to add something to everyone on the call. We did receive several questions in advance of this meeting, so that has been forwarded to our speakers who will be covering the homelessness topic along the South Main corridor. So we just wanted to make you aware that the responses will be incorporated during parts of the presentation. Thanks.
Okay, excellent. And then just real quickly, we have 21
I'm sorry, I
attendees.
thought that I had that.
We have 21 attendees, and we've basically allowed each of you to unmute your mic to the extent that you'd like to ask your question directly. So if anybody's having any difficulty, just let us know. Send us a chat message, and we'll try and figure it out on our end. At this point, it looks like everybody is able to unmute their mic and ask their own questions in their own words.
I can share the screen, Terry, no problem.
That would
Oh,
be great,
excellent. Thank you,
Margarita.
Margarita. Okay, so Margarita's going to kick off sharing the presentation, and Terry will jump in at this point.
Terrific. Thank you. Yes, hi, I'm the city's homeless services manager, and I'm happy to walk through a PowerPoint presentation that I have prepared for you. And then any questions that you have afterwards, I am happy to answer. We can go to the next one. So we've had a couple point in time counts in the city of Santa Ana. The first one was in 2017. And as you can see by what we're sharing, there were a total of 1,000 individuals experiencing homelessness within the city. This is a count that the County of Orange puts together for all of the cities, but this was exclusively to Santa Ana. In 2018, the city of Santa Ana decided to do their own count, and that increased, as you can see, up to about 1,600 individuals. And then just 1 year later was again the county count, the official point in time count that is used, and that increased again. So homelessness definitely is increasing in the city of Santa Ana. Next. Are you forwarding the, okay, perfect. To address many of the items in regards to homelessness in the city, I wanted to go over a few things. So first of all, oh, no, go back.
Okay, there's like a delay in time with the slides, so it's going back to that slide. I apologize.
No problem. That allows more time for the translating, right?
So our meeting participants should see a slide that says City of Santa Ana Homeless Services, Shelter and Housing Outreach and Enforcement at this point.
So
Back to
within
you,
the-
Terry.
Okay, so within the city, we do have 785 beds of emergency shelter. These are including 200 beds at the Link shelter, which is the city shelter, as well as some of the other shelters in the city. And I will go through those in a second in regards to the courtyard and some other things. We also have 434 units of permanent supportive housing. The type of housing that this is for individuals. Not only is it housing, but it provides those wraparound services that they so very much need in order to continue to moving forward in their life. We also have various rental assistance funding And we have housing vouchers through our Santa Ana Housing Authority that we are able to provide to individuals who are experiencing homelessness. Our other shining stars in our city are our quality of life team and our City Net Homeless Outreach team. The quality of life team is a multidisciplinary team, as it says here. It is formed of individuals in our Santa Ana Police Department, our Public Works Agency, our Parks and Recreation, our Code Enforcement. And these individuals are going out into the community 7 days a week. We have several teams that are out, and they are responding to not only items that mostly items that come in on our Santa Ana app, but also some other items as well. So I will go over the My Santa Ana app in a few minutes too. The team goes out and addresses encampments in the city, as well as many other items when you are referring to individuals that are experiencing homelessness out there on the streets. The majority that the COLT team does is to work with individuals and the trash that is a result of some of the items that are left behind. However, if there is only an individual who is out there that does not have an encampment, it might just be someone that you're very interested in receiving resources for, that you're concerned about, then we would send out our CityNet team. And things are going crazy here on my screen. I'm still back on that same one. Yep, right there.
Sorry, Terri,
Okay,
that
we
was,
can talk about
I was trying to scroll something else. My bad. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So in regards to that CityNet Homeless Outreach team, again, these are not the individuals who would go out and go into the large encampments. We have that exclusively with our COLT team. But again, if it's just one individual that we are concerned about, then we do send out our CityNet Outreach team who are able to go over a variety of resources that we have and how they could help them accomplish what they want to with various housing options. Now we can go to the next one. I wanted to just give a brief overview of our Santa Ana homeless shelter, which is called The Link. Here are a couple pictures of the interior. And I wanted to go over when individuals are exiting the shelter, they're going to a variety of settings. They're going to some of our permanent supportive housing projects. They are returning home to being reunified with their family. They may be just renting a room somewhere, or they're going into some form of affordable housing. So we are tracking that and seeing where we are able to help our guests that are leaving from The Link. We can go to the next one. So I also wanted to go over some of the resources that we have for our guests who are entering the homeless shelter. We have case management for every single individual that comes into the shelter. They meet with their case manager once a week. We also have a housing navigator who is the individual who is helping them find their housing. They have transportation. I will go over that for a moment because we do not allow individuals to walk in and walk out of the shelter. That is how we work very closely with our neighborhoods, and it's the best process that we have. They also have access to a substance abuse counselor, connections to methadone treatments, behavioral health therapy. We have Second Chance OC that comes in for a variety of job coaching, helps them with resume building. They put on coaching and they act out what an interview would be like. So they do a lot to help them get a job. We also have the Heart for Pets, which is this big mobile van that comes in and provides vaccinations for all of the pets that are at the shelter. And we have a variety of referrals to other community resources, public and private. And then they are also, the shelter right now is in the process of creating a job community resources board to assist the individuals even further. As I just mentioned, our transportation at the link, it was a question that we had gotten earlier, so I just wanted to walk through it. The shelter is again, as I mentioned, no walk-ins, no walk-outs. Everyone coming in and out needs to be transported. So what we provide for those guests is a drop-off. They can leave at either 6 a.m., 9 a.m., or 12 noon, and they are all going to one location, which is the Santa Ana Transit station, the train station. And then they are picked up again at either 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. in the afternoon. So this is the way that they can go out. They can go to work. They can go to their doctor's appointments. They can go to the DMV. They can go to all of their treatments that they need to go to, and then be able to come back to the shelter. On a case-by-case basis, at times, individuals may need to go someplace completely different, and an Uber will be hired, and so special accommodations are made. The same as if someone has a job that is going in a completely opposite direction than the train station, there may be special accommodations that are made to drop them off at a bus station that would be more appropriate for them to get to work. But basically, this is our transportation schedule.
Terri, this is Scott, and I apologize for interrupting you, but you may have covered this already, but can you share where the link is located? Like,
Yes, the link is located on the corner of Red Hill and Warner. And it is right on the outskirts, almost there on the outskirts of Santa Ana and Tustin.
thank you.
I also, no problem. I also wanted to, oh yeah, go back to that. Okay, now go to the map. I also wanted to just share with you, this is an older map. It's from 2016, once it comes back up there. But it does, this is something that the county put together, and it does indicate all of the behavioral health services that are in Orange County. So as you can see, there are an abundance of a variety of things that people can, types of services that they can get assistance for. So I don't know if they have a new up-to-date one. This was one that I had, and
Terri,
it does.
Terri, this is Scott again.
does,
And could we check and see if we can enlarge the map a little bit, like magnify it so we can see it a little bit better? Thank you. That's great.
so
Thank you
let's
so much,
see.
Terri.
I don't know if I don't have control of that, right? Were you able to do it?
Yeah, I was able to zoom in.
Were you able to get that larger, Margarita? Okay, great. So you can see
Yes.
that there are a lot of services that are concentrated in Santa Ana. It has been this way for years. But there are also a variety of services all over, or mostly over Orange County, and especially in North Spa. When a few years ago, Susan Price came to the county, she was considered the homeless czar. She broke the county up into 3 spas, service planning areas. Santa Ana is considered the central spa, and we're in Santa Ana, Fountain Valley, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach. We're all in the central spa area. Then there's the northern spa, and then the south spa. So you can see that the majority of the services are in the central and northern spa.
Thank you. Thank you, Terri.
Yeah. The next, let's see, what do I have next, Margarita?
One second, I'm trying to get to the little menu where I can click on the next slide.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Here we
The
go.
next thing I just wanted to speak about are the shelters that are in Santa Ana, and It hasn't popped up yet, but I think it's going to. These are emergency shelters in Santa Ana. And the reason I put pre-COVID-19 is because the numbers have changed since COVID-19. So the cold weather shelter that was previously over on at the National Guard down there on Warner held 200 people. But during COVID, they activated the National Guard. And so many of those individuals moved over to the Salvation Army Family Center over on First Street. And then only 100 individuals were able to be at that site. And then even at times it got less than that because they were encouraging greater social distancing. We also have what we're called Safe Place, which is at the Wise Place. The Courtyard, which is again the county shelter, the big large one in downtown Santa Ana, had up to 450 individuals at that shelter at one point in time. Since COVID, it's down half that amount, if not less. I think it's just over 100 individuals at that shelter. And then the Salvation Army is actually not, from what I understand, it has not been in operation recently since COVID. So, but there's a little overview of some of the shelters in Santa Ana. But we also have some, which would be the next slide, permanent supportive housing, which I have here.
Terri?
The first one.
Terri, I'm sorry. This is Scott.
That's
If
okay.
we could maybe pause here just for a second and see if any of our participants have any questions, or if we have any questions that have come in on the Spanish language line as well.
Okay.
Scott, this is Susie Lopez Guerra. I have a question, and you might, Terri, you might be addressing it later, but you're talking primarily of adults, right? Are you going to cover, or do you oversee the supports for students who are homeless and their families?
No, I have not addressed the students that are homeless. If they are in the shelters, then they are being assisted. I know that we do have some Santa Ana Unified School District children at our Link shelter. And we work with Alita in regards to those children. I actually even think that the school district provided some computers for the children at the Link, which was really great. But nothing with the McKinney-Vento. Is that what you were referring to?
Well, just to make sure that students who are identified, and I'm very excited to hear that you're working with Alida because she's our lead at the district. So if that's happening, I just wanted to make sure that there was a direct link between the services that are being provided by the city and the needs being addressed or identified as the district. So thank you very much, Terri.
And so, Terri, it looks like Mark Lopez has a question. One of our participants. Mark, are you able to unmute your mic?
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I think them have this meeting. What's that?
Couldn't hear that.
Is everybody hear me?
Yes, Mark, we can hear you.
Oh, I appreciate everybody coming over tonight. But hello?
So Mark, your audio is breaking up a little bit. What I'd like to,
sir?
I can hear you now, but your audio kind of breaks up as you start talking. Let's try it. Let's try it one more time. And if not, you can type in your question on the chat line.
Hold up, sir. Hold up.
One of the suggestions is that your mic may be, the volume may be too high on your mic, and that's the problem.
Oh, here we go. Okay, here.
Thank you, Sandra. Great suggestion.
Is that everybody?
Yeah, that's better, Mark. Thank you.
One of the things I've like to say, that's a bad here one. Just that I see say. Let me turn it down, sir. Hold up.
Maybe Mark could type in his question and
Yeah.
someone
That better?
could read it.
No, Mark, we're not able to hear you very well. So we're going to go to another one of the
Yeah,
attendees.
I was just bad feedback. I'll try to type it up real quick.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mark. Now we're going to go to Tim Johnson. Tim, we've invited you to unmute yourself. Hi,
Hey,
Tim. Go
hey,
ahead.
hey, thanks a lot. Hey, Terry, this is Tim Johnson. Nice,
Tim.
thanks for putting this on. I have a question regarding the link and some recent experiences I've had. So, as we know, that shelter is for persons experiencing homelessness with ties to the city of Santa Ana. And I'm hoping that you can provide a definition of
Yes.
that, or maybe the PD can, because I'm being told through CityNet that their criteria is 10 years of verifiable residency in the city, which seems to me to be quite arduous. And so, can you provide some insight to that? That someone could be homeless in our live in our city for 5 years, for example, be on the streets homeless, and we're not going to help that gentleman.
So we do want the shelter to be for individuals that are considered Santa Ana residents. And so we do a background check, and we make sure that they have strong ties, which may include going to high school here, having a job, having children in the school district, having a verifiable address that we can look at, and being homeless in the city of Santa Ana. While we don't want to assist someone that just moved into the city, I don't think we always go back to 10 years. I mean, I think that would be our preference. We don't always go back to that 10 years, but I think that I could ask Sergeant Montiel, who does oversee some of this. He actually sees the individuals' names and looks at all of the requirements as he's going through. So Sergeant Montiel, are we always looking back at 10 years? Or I know that is the gold standard, but is that always the case?
No, we're not. As a matter of fact, we don't even look back how long they've been homeless or how long they've been from Santa Ana. As long as they're homeless in the streets in Santa Ana and they can prove some type of tie to Santa Ana, whether it was going to high school or having a current job or something like that, they're eligible to go to the link. The 10-year term is not something that we even discuss when we're deciding whether to put somebody into the link or not. Our big thing is that you're homeless in the streets of Santa Ana and that you have some connection to Santa Ana, whether it was prior residence, prior schooling and stuff like that. If you're homeless in Santa Ana and you don't have that connection, then we take you to either the Courtyard or the Armory. So no one's left without an option on where to go when we contact them out in the streets.
So how is CityNet telling me, and I mean, I've texted both of you guys. Why would CityNet be telling me that? I mean, they said that through the cult team that you guys want to have 10 years, and they're not even bringing those folks to the city for referral to the link. Obviously, we're hitting some barriers on that. Especially, I mean, as you know, it's hard enough to get these folks to want to accept services, and then you throw a barrier like that in front of them, and
So with your question, if you're talking about bringing them into the city,
no. This is a gentleman that I've known on the streets here in Santa Ana for years.
Okay, and so we don't. I work every day with the outreach workers from CityNet. They have 4 2-man teams that drive around the city with us, and we work with them daily. And in the 2-3 years I've been doing this, we've never ever had a discussion on a 10-year homelessness or residency, I guess, criteria. So where they're getting that from, I have absolutely no idea, because you could be homeless in the streets of Santa Ana for one day and had a residence somewhere here for 1 month, and we're going to put you into the link.
All right, well, I'll text you the gentleman's name from CityNet that's told me this, because we as a resident here that's concerned about folks that are on the street wanting help, there's some miscommunication going on somewhere.
Yeah,
with this.
absolutely. Send me the info, because I'd like to know who's putting out that information, because it's not correct at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant, and thank you, Tim. We do have a question from Sandra Pochapena. Sandra, you have your hand raised. We wanted to see if you're able to unmute your mic and express yourself.
Yes, hello. So I have a couple of questions here. First, with the assertion that all link guests are tracked, when they leave the link, I keep running into people on the streets from the link, people from Santa Ana. Back in the Tom's truck lot, when we had people living there on just south of 4th Street, around 3rd and 2nd, it was full of people that had been at the link, and they all had different reasons. Mainly, they felt that they were being warehoused, that there weren't any activities, there weren't any classes, there wasn't treatment. And so they were getting very sick. So they need to go and collect cans, bottles, so that they can, buy what they need. So they, have to deal with that addiction. Most of them are either on heroin or meth, unfortunately. And they're not being tracked. I just talked to somebody, I think I wrote to everybody yesterday, right? I talked to somebody yesterday. Her name was Alicia Gutierrez, who had been at the link for 2 months. And she was told at intake that she would be assigned a case manager and that she would have the weekly meeting. She was told that, so that's correct. But then she was there for 2 entire months, and she said nobody gave her treatment. She didn't have any access to AA or Narcotics Anonymous classes. I asked her what she would want in a homeless shelter that would make her want to go to one. And she said, I would like some education. She said, I want to better myself. I want to get out of this, but there was nothing offered. There weren't even board games. And I have visited the link on different occasions. I referred the artists there that created the murals over at the intake. And I know that they had a book collection, but they're like really old, like, very, deteriorated books. And there's really no services. I think we had an art program or some kind of like the art commission had done some kind of a call for classes. So I don't know what happened with that, because nobody that I have spoke to that has come from the link has ever mentioned or seen any kind of art classes. So there's got to be some kind of quality control. So I'm hoping that we can, like, what kind of quality control would there be with that? The other thing are the drop-off points.
Sandra, Hey, Sandra, this is Scott. So let's have Terri respond to that first question, and we'll come back to you for the second part of your question.
All right, great.
If that's okay.
Mhm.
Terri.
I'll first address all the art classes. Yeah, we do have art classes that are going on. I have some beautiful photos and write-ups about the art classes that have been going on at the link. Unfortunately, when COVID hit in the spring, those classes were eliminated at this point in time. The contract is already there. They're dying to go back and asking when they can go back in and provide services. So it's just one of those things that we're just taking day by day in regards to getting those art classes back at the shelter. But we absolutely have services. The whole purpose of this emergency shelter is not a place for someone to come in and leave. It's a place, or to live. It is a place for someone to temporarily pass through, get all of the assistance that they can get, and then to move on into permanent housing. So we do hear many individuals will say that they have not met with their case managers. That's probably a common mantra that is going on, but they are absolutely seeing services. We also have just had a change in operators. And so there probably was about a 1 week or maybe 2 week period where individuals were not meeting with their case managers. And that was because one operator was leaving, the new operator came on board. And so they're just kind of getting back into the swing of it. and transferring all of those individuals from one case manager to another. But absolutely, there are a variety of those types of case management that's going on. And we do not have services like AA classes and detox and all of that at the shelter, but we do provide referrals to all of those so people can go off-site.
Thank you, Terri.
Hey, Scott,
Yes.
just real quick on the, and I don't want to get into specifics about, certain clients and stuff like that, but just so we have an understanding of this, Alicia Gutierrez, we're actually in the process of finding her housing. So she is being case managed and she is being serviced there at the link, actually very heavily. So, sometimes there's, I guess, three sides to a story there, but she's actually being very heavily case managed to get her out and get her into some type of permanent housing, actually pretty quick from now.
Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you very much. And I think what we're hearing tonight, though, is to the extent that people have questions regarding the services at the link, that Terri is accessible and you can actually ask her questions and inquire about things.
Absolutely.
Sandra Pochapena, I know you had a two-part question, so we want to go back to you.
Thank you. Well, Alicia was just on Bishop and Main yesterday, so I don't think she's at the link. I think her last stay, she was there for under a week, and she said she wasn't interested in going back. So it'd be great if she is in some kind of heavily managed situation, but she wasn't as of yesterday evening.
Yeah, and just so you're aware, we're not just the city has been very fortunate to get their hands on numerous housing vouchers. And
Yeah.
there's certain individuals right now, and Alicia being one of them, that they're not, I guess they just don't do well in shelters as much as we try to get them into shelters, but it doesn't mean that we lose touch with them. We're still connected with them and trying to work with them even while they're on the streets. And, in best case scenario, they go from the streets to a shelter to housing. But there's some people that need some more support than that. So we're still trying to get them into some type of permanent supportive housing from the streets, and that we don't lose track of them. It takes a long time because there's a lot of documentation that they have to obtain, such as IDs and stuff. And that's, we have CityNet out there running around and transporting these people to the DMV and to doctor's appointments and the Social Security appointments to get their cards in order so we can get the verifications, the paperwork we need to get them into housing. So even though Alicia's not comfortable at the link, she's still being very heavily case managed by the Colt Heart team and CityNet. And there's several of them out in their streets right now that we're doing that with, because we're really pushing towards targeting the individuals that are physically in Santa Ana, whether it's in our shelter or on the streets.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing that. There's still, and also for your CityNet team, if you ever go down to Main and Bishop, pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you will find homeless people there. So if you're ever looking for homeless people, that's the spot where they always are. They're either on the west side, on the Henninger Park side of Bishop and Main, over behind the dumpster over at the liquor store, or they're over on Cypress and Bishop, which brings up my next question, which are the drop-off points. We just had a presentation that the drop-off point, main drop-off point was the train station, the transit center, but the residents have found that there is a drop-off point at Bishop and Cypress. And I guess it's been there for a while. It's not marked, and we don't know who's dropping on and off there. We know it's a van, so it's not an Uber. And I don't know if there can be any clarity about that pickup and drop off spot, and if it's part of another network, maybe that's not run by the city.
You're saying it's a van or
a van?
A van. I am not aware of any organization that's doing a drop off in that area. It is definitely not coming from the Link shelter.
Okay. All right. So Chris has asked a question of our panelists. And Chris, I wanted to see if we could just unmute your mic so you could ask the question in your own words. Chris, are you able to do that?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Chris.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Want me to ask my question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Officer Montiel, you're aware of the situation. A few months ago, I used the city app to report a homeless male that I've seen over the last year. And Colt went out there, made contact with him, found out his last known address was in the city of Costa Mesa. Colt contacted the city of Costa Mesa and PD to see if they could provide any services to him. My understanding is Costa Mesa PD came out, made contact with him, transported him to somewhere in Costa Mesa where he was provided housing and services. I hadn't seen him in a few weeks, so I assumed he was doing well and living in Costa Mesa. But last week I was driving down MacArthur Boulevard and I once again saw him again with all his stuff. So my question is how does our city address situations where homeless individuals are being brought to other cities to get housing and services, but they keep coming back and ending up in our city? It seems like it's just a revolving door. We're not really solving anything. So for an instance like this with this gentleman, we know he was brought to Costa Mesa in the last few months and he's back in our city. How do we address situations like this?
Well, so I know the individual you're talking about. And we haven't been advised that he's back in Santa Ana. So if he is and you know where he is like last time, just let us know and we'll go and contact him. The reason he was connected with Costa Mesa is because we actually contacted him in a Costa Mesa address right there at Fairview and Sunflower.
No, you just talk. You talk. What do you normally talk to her about?
I guess someone needs to mute themselves there.
Rosa Bernal, you need to mute your mic.
All right, please go ahead, Sergeant. Sergeant, your mic is muted at this point.
Oh, there you go. Okay, sorry about that. We connected that individual with Costa Mesa because he's had a lot of contact with Costa Mesa's homeless outreach team, and he was comfortable with them at that time. We had no idea he was back in the city. So if someone can let us know where he's at, we'll go back and recontact him. He's one of those that I guess we call very service resistant. The last time we contacted him, we had CityNet out there. We had the Orange County Healthcare Agency out there. You know, we can only push so far to where we end up, I guess, almost harassing the poor individual. But we don't stop trying. You know, we'll go out there if he's out there. Especially with that individual. I mean, gosh, we were out there for daily for over a week or two contacting this guy until we got him to go to a hotel through people that he was comfortable with by church that he knew in Costa Mesa. So with those individuals that, you know, he's not brought back into Costa Mesa by the police department. He walks himself back into Costa Mesa. I mean, into Santa Ana, Costa Mesa. And it's not illegal to do, you know what I mean? And we're just with him. It's whoever he's willing to accept services with and he's comfortable with, we're going to work with them and try to get him what it is he needs to get him off the streets. But that individual is very adamant. He does not want to do anything but be on the streets. But it doesn't mean we stop working with them, you know, because there's some individuals that it's taken us years to get them to be off the streets. And so it's a long process with them.
Thank you, Sergeant. We do have a question from a participant with the initials NC. They typed in a question. This might be for Terri Eggers. The question is the Courtyard a permanent shelter, or will that be moving or closing at any time?
The Courtyard Shelter is the county shelter that's in downtown Santa Ana. And that is going to be shutting down, and the participants will be relocated over to the new county shelter, which is on Yale. So it's just, it's off of like Harbor and Warner, which is where the Yale shelter is. That is supposed to be opening, I believe, in January of this coming year. I do not know what the old courtyard will be used for, but it will not be used for a homeless shelter. I don't know what the county intends to do with that. But the new Yale shelter, if you drive by it, they're very actively working on that shelter. And it's a
Thank you,
shelter
Terri.
up to, I think, 450 individuals.
Thank you, Terri. We do have a
Mhm.
couple other questions that have come in, and so we're going to call on people, but I wanted to take this time to check in on our Spanish language line and our colleagues to see if any of our Spanish speakers have questions that we can ask of our panelists. And so our colleagues, Margarita and Narcy, do we have any questions on the Spanish language line at this point? If not, I see Veronica Castro. You have a question, you have your hand raised. Please try and unmute your mic at this point and go ahead.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you, Veronica.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the drop-off locations for the people that you drop off. And how do you determine where to drop them off? Because I live close to Main and Bishop, and I see a big amount of people coming and going there all the time. I don't even like to go to that Dollar Tree there anymore, just because I feel like I'll be honest with you, I'm not comfortable. And I see people hanging out on the corners and I see kids walking by. Sometimes when school was on, I would see kids walking back and forth to school or people just walking in general. I would see people shooting up and just a lot of stuff I'm not that I have no compassion for these people, I do, but what about our safety also? I'm concerned about that.
Okay,
That
thank
is
you.
not
Thank you,
a
Veronica.
drop-off site for our, Veronica, that is not a site for our link shelter. The drop-off point is the train station, which is, it was determined that that would be the best location to drop individuals off because from there they could access various forms of transportation and get throughout the city. So we're not dropping off at the point that you just indicated.
Because I thought somebody just mentioned earlier that was a drop-off point, and also I think they said Cypress and Maine or somewhere around the same area. Didn't somebody say that just a few minutes ago?
They said that they do see a van dropping people off, but I was just saying that it was not the city that was dropping that off. So we'll have to find out who that was. I know at one point in time, a little while ago, when we had the last stay-at-home orders, we were not taking people out 3 times a day, like I just mentioned. And we were only having individuals sign up and go out for a shopping adventure so they could go out themselves. And I don't believe that was the street corner. It was down by a Food King, someplace else. But I do not believe that was the location. But that ended, couple of months ago. So now we're just using the train station.
So
Veronica,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Sergeant Montiel, please.
Yeah, Veronica, and I don't remember who mentioned the van the first time, but if you happen to see that van and take some pictures and get a license plate for me, we can research and see who's dropping off individuals, because I'd really like to know if there's a drop-off happening there and it's not permitted, or if it's increasing, adding to our homeless population here in Santa Ana.
I haven't seen anybody being dropped off anywhere, but maybe I'm in the wrong conversation. Maybe this conversation is meant for people that are in shelters but my concern is just everybody's safety, because however the people get there, they're there. So I was just concerned, like, what is anything being done about safety in that area?
Yeah, so just a quick background. Code enforcement right now is working closely with the owners of the property where the Dollar Tree is there to kind of mitigate the graffiti, and we're really trying to get them to get that recycling bin taken out, because that's a big magnet for homeless and for people using narcotics and stuff like that. And the Colt team is, it's a 27 square mile city, but we're out in the area of Main and Bishop, and actually Cypress and Bishop a lot in there. It's just a matter of, time permitting and getting over there to do that. But we've actually had the city, the code enforcement actually had the owners of that property hire better security, do better lighting, repave or restuck slurry their parking lot and stuff like that. So there's stuff going on. It's going to take a little while to get it cleaned up like it should be.
What about having those taco trucks there all the time? Does that contribute to it?
You know what? I don't know. And the thing is that they have city permits. So, I mean, they're actually permitted to be there. And Corporal Velasquez, who's also on this thing, his team's out there in the area a lot and trying to make contact with these people and servicing and helping the ones they need and taking to jail the other ones they need.
Okay.
So
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Sergeant, and thank you, Veronica. Terri, why don't we go back to you so you can walk through a couple more slides, and then
Okay,
we'll see if we
I'll
have
do it real-
additional questions. We do have a couple people who have questions, but they've already asked some questions, and so I'd like to give you an opportunity to continue your presentation.
Okay, I'll walk through it real quickly. On the screen is still, I had mentioned the permanent supportive housing. These are some of our initial projects that we have in the city.
Sorry, I'm going back.
To the other one. Okay, no problem. I did want to let you know that we are going to be opening up one place with 56 units up on 17th Street in January. This is one of the facilities that individuals who are at the link and who are looking for a permanent option, they are coming right out of the link shelter. So, and then we have our Veterans Village, which was renamed to Heroes Landing. And we're doing some really great projects with our individuals who are experiencing homelessness in Santa Ana. And we have 232 units that are in the pipeline. And then I did also want to mention, as Sergeant Montiel did, that the Santa Ana Housing Authority has been very successful in getting some additional housing vouchers. And we have over 350 vouchers that we're using exclusively for individuals who are homeless. So these are not others are not competing for these. So these are exclusively for individuals who are homeless. So the city is doing a stellar job at providing housing for individuals as they are exiting the link shelter. The next thing I wanted to mention was the My Santa Ana app. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. You as neighborhood individuals may already have this information, but I just always like to make a plug for it. This is how our COLT team goes out into the community and are addressing of the issues. You can take a photo of what you see, but you are not required to take a photo to submit your request. And if you were wanting to put something in regards to encampments, you would put that under report encampment. And then you have the opportunity to put down, is it private property or public property? Is it in a park? And we have various people going out and addressing these. So this is a great way. And the COLT team is incredible. They go out there and they get things done every single day. So if it comes in, it's going to be addressed that day, and you will get a response back on the report that you put in.
Terri, this is Scott. And in the chat, we're getting questions for Sergeant Montiel and Corporal Velasquez regarding,
Okay.
our members of the Santa Ana Police, including Commander Richard Weber. There's observations and information people are entering in the chat regarding the sale of fraudulent IDs and, career criminals sort of like operating an enterprise in a particular area near where we've been talking about. Are you guys able to touch upon that at all? Or
Yes, I could talk about that. This is Corporal
okay.
Velasquez, Santa Ana Police Department. So yes, we've had many complaints regarding Maine Bishop, Cypress Bishop, or as these people call it, the organized crime over 30 years. Yes, the fake IDs we know people are selling there. We started working a few months ago maybe back in May. And we were able to make 3 arrests from that specific location with me and Marita area with marked black and white police vehicles to try to see and contact as many people as we were able to see there. Then we set up undercover officers, followed by getting information as far as who was selling the fake IDs. We were able to get the phone numbers and set up deals with these people. And that's how we were able to make some of these arrests. For a while, they did stop selling. They actually changed their location to the Northgate Market on 4th Street. So again, we were able to get them out of Main and Bishop, and then we started arresting them at the market. But unfortunately, yeah, they're out again. So what that means is we're going to come back, and I assure you, we're going to start working them again. Unfortunately, it's been for 30 years, and it is going to take some time. But it's when we get more and more enforcement, hopefully we're able to make sure that these guys don't come back, at least not to this location.
Corporal, thank you so much. There was another kind of question that came in on the chat, kind of related to that, about a business on Broadway and Bishop. You probably see this entry at 6:27 p.m. We have a business at Broadway and Bishop. I've noticed a regular lady always comes every day. She's now bringing different men every morning. We have to wash down for the safety of our staff and clients. Even clients that have arrived early notice and have fear. So are you familiar with that? Or is this something we can follow up with our attendee on?
I don't know if this is some type of prostitution going on here, but I will jot that down and we will make sure we do follow up on this. Broadway and Bishop, yes.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Just real quick, so the people in the chat and the participants are well aware. So Corporal Velasquez has a team of 4 officers, and they basically do a lot of the street enforcement out there in the area. But the chief, in January is going to actually double his team, so there'll be a lot more active enforcement on all these issues that people are talking about today. So the police department itself's putting a lot of resources into this, these issues that people are discussing and stuff. So Corporal Velasquez's team will now be a sergeant plus 10 officers. So it's going to help with all these issues a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Terri, back to the homeless question. We have a couple of our attendees who've asked about the status of the provision of mental health services on South Main, and that there'd been some discussion. There's been discussion over a series of months, if not years, about additional scrutiny, essentially, and supervision of sort of the provision of those services. And the question is, are there any updates on any status updates on that?
No status update. The city is still in an ongoing litigation, and so there's it's moving forward, but there's nothing additional that for me to share with that.
Okay, thank you, Terri. Thank you very much. It looks like we've got Carla Juarez has a question. Carla?
Yes, hi, thank you, Scott. My question is, are concerned for our fellow neighbors who are homeless. Currently, like in the city, they're trying to pass like an ordinance where people cannot fix their bikes out in public. And I know this mostly affects homeless people. So is there an area that the homeless could use to fix their bikes without having, to basically put themselves on the line on getting a ticket or, getting sent to prison or in jail or harassed by cops?
Thank you, Carla. So I think that question will start with Terri maybe, and then go over to the sergeant.
I think I'm just going to pass that straight on to the sergeant in regards to the
Okay.
fixing of the bikes. I know that I will say that it is an ongoing issue in regards to homelessness. It is one of the ways that they barter for items, but I'm going to go ahead and let Santa Ana PD respond to that one.
Yeah, so Carla, first of all, I love your background picture that you have there. The bike thing is, you know, the officers usually use their discretion on who they cite and who they don't cite. The ordinance is a necessary evil right now in the city because the bike theft problem right now is just absolutely huge throughout the city. So, you know, if an officer sees an individual fixing his own personal bike on the street, I mean, they're going to use the spirit of the law and just talk to him and figure out what's going on. The issue with this new ordinance is when you see these individuals with 4 or 5 bikes and basically setting up like an de facto, like a chop shop for bikes. That's what we're trying to get rid of and avoid happening here in the city. And it's happening a lot. You know, we at nighttime, you'll see individuals riding bikes and then, you know, hauling 2 other bikes with them. And there's no requirement anymore from the city to license your bike. So it's impossible for us to trace back where these bikes come from because not many of us keep serial numbers to our bikes. But they're still reporting them as being stolen, and it's a huge problem in the city right now. So, you know, it's not a harassment thing, and you know, it's either the letter of the law or the spirit of the law, and most of these officers are going to take their time to find out what's going on before we issue any type of a citation. So no, we're not going to cite the kid riding the bike or the homeless guy riding the bike and stuff like that. We're looking more at the ones that are going into your front yard and stealing your kid's bike and kind of trying to deter that situation.
Okay, great. We've got a couple other questions. Erica Gonzalez, and then followed by Mr. Jose Rea. So Jose Rea will be next after Erica Gonzalez.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I just wanted to kind of make a reference. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with the report. It's a 5-part series from the LA Times that they did on the homelessness issue here in Orange County. And I have to say that there are some discrepancies between the numbers that the city is reporting and, you know, regarding or in contrast to the numbers that are reported in this report. Because according to this, Santana has almost 2,000 homeless people, and that was as of 2019. And we've been seeing a consistent rise in those numbers. And then I also saw a comment, I believe Sandra posted a comment saying that the Orchard and the other 2 shelters were going to be closing this year. And I do know that Costa Mesa has started to build the Mercy. I believe it's through the Mercy organization. They're building a shelter over in Costa Mesa. So what I would like to know is, it seems to me that the current protocol that we have for the homelessness issue in our city is not working. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I feel like that is exactly what I'm hearing. And it's what we consistently hear. We're not addressing the actual issues that drive people to homelessness. If you look at that 5-part series, which the last part came out just last month, you'll see that the number one reason that people are homeless is because of lack of secure housing. It's unaffordable housing. So when we talk about all these issues of homelessness on the Main Street corridor, I want to also acknowledge that one of the main reasons why we have such a high number of homelessness or of homeless folks in our city is, one, because we are the place where most of the other cities, specifically South County, bring a lot of the homeless population into our cities because of policies and laws that they have. But also because we're not providing the right support for these folks. And I know Sandra brought up, I think that case that she brought up was really amazing because a lot of times we do hear from different folks, and it's multiple, it's different walks of life, different people. Nobody chooses to be homeless. Nobody chooses to be addicted, right? Addiction is a form of mental health. It's a mental health issue. And if we really want to address the homelessness issue, we have to go to the root. What I'm hearing are band-aids. This is just quick fixes. This is out of sight, out of mind. We need to really help these people because 75% of the homeless people who are in Orange County are originally from Orange County. They are from our county. So I feel like the cities a lot of times just try to push the responsibility onto other cities. And Santa Ana, unfortunately, because we are one of the lowest income and immigrant communities, we get taken advantage of a lot. So what I would like to see is for these organizations, for the SAPD, for Mercy Home, for the Quality of Life Department, for you guys to really streamline some protocols that are going to actually start to address the underlying issues of the oppressive systemic the oppressive system that we live in today. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. And I would really, really recommend for folks to check out that 5-part series that the LA Times did, because it's very informative and it really shines a light on what the core issues are here, because the core issues are unaffordable housing. So I really, really just want folks to remember that if we can protect our tenants, and have affordable housing and guarantee real affordable housing, then I think we could really start to transform this homelessness issue that has been plaguing our city for decades, the whole county, right? So I just kind of wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Terri, any quick additional information you want to share, or we're ready to move on to the next question? Terri Eggers,
We can
do you
move
have
on to
anything
the
else you
next
want to add to that?
question.
Next question? Okay. Thank you very much, Erica.
Can you hear me now?
Erica, I wanted to let you know that we did receive in the chat box other meeting participants indicating that they agreed with the information you were sharing and your opinion. So there were a number of people who also are in agreement with you regarding your concerns. We're moving now to Mr. Jose Rea. Mr. Rea?
Hi, Scott. Thank you to you and Margarita for, gathering this group of panelists. I have two questions actually, and I hope you guys don't mind. One is in reference to the agreement that the city has with the railroad companies in terms of cleaning the encampments. We do have some issues here, not necessarily in Madison Park, we don't have railroads tracks going through it, but just behind Mini Street, along that route, whether it's McFadden, Edinger, Warner, industrial railroad tracks, and there's encampments there, that go on and off regularly. So that's one thing. So I know that before there was some difficulties on going into that private section of the railroad. So I want to see if you guys have any updates on that. And the second one is for SAPD.
Jose,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's have the reps from the police department or Terri Eggers sort of respond to that question about the railroad first. And I promise we'll come back to you for the second part of your question.
I think Sergeant Montiel was out at the railroad tracks yesterday, so he can give you the most up-to-date information. We do have our cult officers out there cleaning up, even though it is private property with Union Pacific. But go ahead, Sergeant Montiel.
Yeah, Jose, we're working very closely with Union Pacific Railroad to come out there as often as we can get them out there to clean up. Unfortunately, there's a couple issues. One of the issues is it is private property, so technically we need permission to go out there and get the private property. And there's train schedules, so it's unsafe for it sometimes to have my officers out there without knowing a train schedule to actually clean up. But there's been a lot of discussion between the city leaders and Union Pacific leaders in the last couple weeks of how we're going to streamline these cleanups and make them more frequent than what they're doing right now. We're not allowing them anymore to use the excuse of lack of manpower or resources to come out there and do them. The city code enforcement is actually on them and threatening of the issuance of fines, just like we would with any other business here in the city. So we were out there yesterday. I believe they cleaned up from Warner all the way to, they said Chestnut, but I think they only made it up to McFadden. And our plan is to get them out there again sometime this week before the week's over and kind of be on them more than what they have been. I now have direct access to their bosses. So if they don't want to play games, then we'll just go over their head and we'll get people out there to clean it. Because it is a problem. It's a problem for you guys in the apartments on Mini. It's a problem for the business owners north of Warner, and it wraps all the way down to Main and Dyer. So it's an issue throughout the city that Union Pacific, they have to be accountable for their private property, and then we're pushing a lot harder now than we used to in the past.
Thank you, Sergeant. Okay, back to Mr. Jose Rea. Jose, the second part of your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the other one, my other question is to also, I guess, Santa Ana PD. If, I have witnessed a couple of accidents on standard on homeless folks yeah, on bikes getting in front of vehicles and then getting hit. And then I also been almost the person that ran into them, that all of a sudden they came in front of my vehicle, or they turned in front of me unexpectedly without me seeing them. So do you have a stat on the number of accidents where the homeless folks are involved?
You know, we would have to, I think the traffic division, I'm sure they have stats on what we would say vehicle versus pedestrian accidents or bike accidents, but specifically related to homelessness, I don't think it breaks down. I don't think it's that specific there, but I don't work traffic there. So we'd have to refer that to our traffic commanders or our traffic sergeants.
Okay, so it sounds like it's information that we can try and identify. Very good. I'd like to, I think we've answered most people's questions. We're like an hour and 15 minutes into this discussion. I'd like to pass it back to Terri Eggers to the extent that you have any closing slides, Terri, to share with the group. We do have an additional item on the, we do have an additional item on the agenda, which is a discussion with reps from the Santa Ana Unified School District as well.
Why don't we go ahead and go to the next slide, since I think we've kind of talked about the Anna app. Just wanted to mention that the city, the Link Shelter that I mentioned before, that's on the corner of Red Hill and Warner, we will be shutting down and being replaced over at a site on Carnegie. So we're in the process of building that shelter out. And in the spring of this year, when the Link Shelter transfers their guests over to the Carnegie Shelter, it'll be great, because this one is a permanent shelter. The Link Shelter was put up as a temporary interim shelter until the city found a permanent place. So this one is just a couple of blocks away from the Link Shelter, but that one is moving forward. And then the last slide that I have just has some telephone numbers and email addresses for people that have questions. We do have a homeless website, so I encourage you to go there to look at our resources and stats that we have. We have a variety of reports. We do a homeless dashboard that has information about the Link Shelter. We have a homeless hotline that individuals who are experiencing homelessness can call, as well as businesses or residents if they would like to call in with a question, as well as an email address. So all of that information is for you to utilize as you may. So
Terri,
I think that's all for my presentation, but again, if there's any additional questions.
Yeah, this is Scott, and Tim Johnson typed in a question, and I'll just read it. Question regarding housing vouchers. How long does it take to get a housing voucher if one were to apply for one today? Once a voucher is received, how successful are folks in getting an actual place to live with that voucher? His concern is that he's heard, again, I apologize, I'm just scrolling down. He's heard that vouchers are hard to come into, and even with a voucher, obtaining housing is very difficult.
Yeah, I'd like to address that. So typically, if you or I were to apply for a housing voucher, it can take upwards of 5 to 10 years in order to get a voucher, and you have 90 days to find a place to use that voucher, and it's true, it's very difficult. However, if we're speaking directly in regards to homelessness, our homeless vouchers, the city of Santa Ana has teamed up with the United Way for their program, their Welcome Home OC program. And individuals who are now referred to the program are being leased up within, 3 to 6 weeks. It's a fantastic program with United Way assisting these individuals, and people, case managers, and the city and United Way will stick with these individuals and will help them to find a unit. So it's not like the other vouchers that you're more familiar with that go unused. These individuals, if you are given a voucher, you're going to be able to find a unit. So hopefully that answers your questions. If you had something else, I'm happy to
Thank
answer.
you. Thank you, Terry. We have 2 additional questions. The first one is for you. The second one, we're going to refer over to Paul Eakins, the city's communications manager, regarding lawsuits. But the first question for you, Terry, is will the county be doing a 2021 point in time count?
Yeah, the county will be doing a point in time count. It's always done in January of each year. This year is going to look a little bit different because of COVID-19. Typically in the past, it's not only a count, but it's a survey. And so while it is not in place yet as to exactly how this is going to be going, my understanding is that there may not be the survey portion of it. It may just be the count. So I will, we will all know additional information more as the weeks go on, but there will be a count.
Thank you. And then over to Paul Eakins, the city's communication manager. He may have some additional information to share regarding the questions concerning lawsuits.
Hi, thank you, Scott. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me join you today. So, yeah, I saw in the chat there were some questions about the lawsuits the city is filing related to homeless shelters and homeless issues. So we have, under the guidance of the city council, the city has filed several lawsuits this year related to that. Some of these you may be aware of. There was one filed in January that has since been amended in August with new information and new claims against the county. And the latest on that was when we filed an amended complaint in August that was basically alleging that the county had breached a settlement agreement, which again, you might be aware of this, involving the Orange County Catholic worker case. And basically, that agreement was requiring the county to provide equitable shelter countywide. And what we alleged in our lawsuit was that the county is breaching this by transporting homeless individuals across as Terry mentioned, the SPAs, the service planning areas, to Santa Ana. So from South County and North County to the central service planning area, and particularly to Santa Ana. And that also, that part of what they're doing is transporting people in a de facto manner by arresting people in other cities, as you know happens, and then they bring them here to the jail. And then when they get out, they're in Santa Ana, and they often stay, and there's no transportation provided to return them to the city they originated in. So these are some of the issues that the lawsuit is addressing. So the latest on that, I did get an update. I spoke with the city attorney's office today, so I could give all of you an update on where that stands. So the county, as is often the case, filed a motion to dismiss the case, to dismiss the lawsuit. And the court heard this on November 16th. They didn't make a ruling yet, but they ordered the two parties to try to work out some sort of agreement to resolve the situation. But one thing of note was that our reading of it was that the Judge Carter, who again, a lot of you probably know the name at least, he seemed very favorable toward us, and he indicated he didn't decline the county's motion, but he But he did sound like that he might rule in our favor if it comes to that. So the way that stands is that on January 13th, there's another hearing. So between now and then, the city and the county are in communication and trying to see if we can work out something that will agree with what the city is wanting to do, which is to ensure that the county does not transport people to homeless individuals from other areas to Santa Ana, and again has some sort of means to transport people who are arrested back to the city where they were arrested originally, and not just allowing them to be released here. And so that's what we're trying to work on, and so that will come to the judge January 13th, where if we've reached an agreement, then that might be settled. But if we haven't, then the judge would revisit the motion to dismiss the case. And we, like I said, we think that there's a good chance that if it comes to that, the judge would deny that motion by the county. And so the case will continue on through the court process. So that's one of the really big ones, because it does involve the county and the fact that they have the courtyard here, the fact that the jail is operating here. And so that's one of the big ones that I think a lot of you are probably aware of. Briefly, a couple other lawsuits that were also filed this year. One was against MHA, the Mental Health Association, and that is basically related to the negative impacts in the surrounding community for public health and safety and welfare. And so, and that also that the center is not necessarily in compliance with some of our zoning code. So that's progressing through the court process. I don't have a specific update beyond that, but it is something that is continuing. The lawsuit is continuing, and the city is trying to reach a resolution on that. And then more recently, the city did file a lawsuit in September against Union Pacific, and that's specifically related to the maintenance of the right-of-way adjacent to railroad tracks that the company owns. And obviously they have a lot of tracks through the city, and so there's a lot of land adjacent to that that they do own. And so they're responsible for that. And sometimes I know that's an issue that comes up where people may ask about, residents may see trash or other issues on these tracks or along these tracks, and the city will work with Union Pacific to try to address that. And in fact, last year, shortly after I started here, about a year ago, I went out. I know that the city had worked together with Union Pacific to do a cleanup along one of the tracks, and our COLT team, the Quality of Life team, went in there to provide assistance and try to help the homeless individuals get housing or shelter and other resources. So the city has been doing those sort of proactive measures on a regular basis, but unfortunately, we found that that Union Pacific just still has not done an adequate job to maintain that right of way along the tracks that they own. So that's why we filed that lawsuit in September. And so similar to the county lawsuit, the city's in negotiations with Union Pacific to try to resolve it. So they have a solution to clean up not just homeless encampments, but issues with trash and debris along those rights of way. But obviously, if that does not work out, if we don't reach some agreement with them, then we would be moving forward with the litigation and moving it through court. So as you know, it's not always a fast process when it comes to the legal process, but that was just filed in September. So hopefully we'll reach some resolutions on that soon.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for those updates on the litigation. Terri Eggers, in closing, we've got two final questions we're going to ask of you, and then we're going to refer over to our next agenda item because we're an hour and a half into our meeting. And so this doesn't mean that this is the end of the conversation. Terri Eggers has provided her contact information. You're able to email her and follow up your questions and inquiries. You very likely have Margarita Macedonio's contact information or my contact information. And so we're very interested in continuing to have this dialogue with you I just think we're sort of approaching the end of this particular time that we have available. Celica Diaz and Sandra Poncha Pena kind of had a couple questions at the end here, Terri. Celica is really asking about sort of the impacts of homeless service providers on residential neighborhoods and what agency is responsible to actually, address the litter and the debris on the sidewalks that the homeless are leaving essentially in proximity to some facility or some service provider. And likewise, Sandra Poncha Pena is kind of asking whether there are any guidelines essentially or standards that the city has in place that governs or supervises the operation of some of these service providers who are located in residential areas.
If the city is not funding the organization and we have no agreement with them then to do anything, they would just need to follow our regular municipal code and ordinances in regards to everything else. In regards to services that are in residential areas, I think I'm only familiar with a couple of them, Isaiah House. I'm not sure which other ones are in a residential area. So I guess we could follow up if I knew exactly which ones you were referring to. But again, if it's something that they would have to, go to the planning department, follow our regular normal services if the city does not have an agreement with them. Which organizations? Wise, I see one. Wise Place is a residential area. The city does not per se have a agreement to operate Wise Place. So you're referring to trash around their area? Is that the issue?
I'm looking at the chat. Why don't we, Celica Diaz, if you're available, we can just unmute your mic if you want to get a little bit more into the details on this. Celica?
Hello, everybody. My name is
Any organization, I did want to mention that any organization that is causing an issue, just like a homeowner, you can put that on the My Santa Ana app, and it would be our code enforcement officers that would go out and see what is going on. If it's trash, if it's fencing that they need or lighting or whatever it is, it would be something that we could have our code enforcement officers go out and check.
Okay. Celica, did that answer your question? We can still unmute your mic if you'd like. Hi, Celica.
Yes, hi. It is the trash. Let's say at times they leave their shopping carts just completely out on the floor with all their stuff just laying there. So at times I do get the shopping cart and bring it over to one of my buildings and dump the trash in the dumpster. But there's times in which it's just a lot of trash, like just a lot, like clothes and food, and it's just on the sidewalk. And so I see it more often happening. And it usually happens when I go down Orange to see the other buildings I manage. So that's why I wanted to find out if we see something like that, can we use the My Santa Ana app and snap a picture of it and, and report it on My Santa Ana?
Yeah, absolutely. The purpose of the My Santa Ana app is for our residents and our businesses to go ahead and send those items into us. So again, if the items are on the public area, our teams will be able to go out there and clean those up. If it's on private property, then our officers, our code enforcement officers will go and will speak directly to the private owner of that business or property. So either way, please report it on the My Santa Ana app. Now, if it is just trash, don't report it under encampment, put that, under the appropriate, column, the item that you need to put it on. So again, encampment is a person and the trash. So if you're just seeing the trash, don't put it under that one, but absolutely, we would love for you to utilize the My Santa Ana app.
Okay. Again, I apologize if we weren't able to get to everybody's questions. We'd like to have the Santa Ana Unified have an opportunity to kind of share their information. Terri, can you hang on to the conclusion of the meeting, and to the extent that additional questions sort of come up, we'll be able to pose those to you. But during the interim, I'd like to introduce our colleagues from the Santa Ana Unified School District who had an item they wanted to share with our attendees as well. And now
Well,
I
good
know that
evening, Scott. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Facilities and Governmental Relations. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
welcome, Orin Williams. And did you want to introduce some of your colleagues who are on the call as well?
Please, if I could, that would be wonderful. I have the opportunity to introduce our Superintendent, Jerry Almendarez. And we also have our two deputies, Amanda Corridon and Dr. Lorraine Perez. And we also have some other district staff. We have Susie Lopez Guerra, which is, she's kind of famous throughout the city, I'm sure. Jeremy Kogan, Director of Planning. Kadarius Colbert, who is a senior planner, as well as Julie Malloy, senior planner. So we're not trying to stack the deck. I think they just wanted to come and see what I was going to say. And so it was an opportunity to kind of share kind of a brief overview. We actually had this intention to share this with you. And we've actually, the board has actually asked us to slow this project down a little bit. But what we're going to talk about tonight, and if I may, I'm going to share my screen.
Orin, I just wanted to let you know that, Orin, hi, this is Scott. I just want to let you know that our school superintendent has joined the meeting too as well, if you didn't see him. Perhaps we can acknowledge him or introduce him. He can have an opportunity to say a few words.
No, thank you for that. I believe Orin did introduce me, so thank you for that. But I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to share with you some of the things that we're planning in the planning stages on, and just get an opportunity to get some feedback from you and help us navigate these crazy times. So thank you for the offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jerry. So Orin, back to you. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, not a problem, Scott. Always good to be here. We actually have a PowerPoint that we put together. And so I'd like to share that. If my connectivity is a little bit slow, here we go. And so we actually put a very simple presentation for those of you who are getting concerned. Approach the subject. We know that there's been some conversation about this change. And so the district is looking at something called optimization, trying to get the most out of our schools and our school community. And so what we're actually doing is a series of schools to be able to, again, optimize or make them the best that they can be to serve our community. So this project in particular that we're talking about tonight is pertinent to this neighborhood association because it deals with Lathrop and Franklin. One of the preliminary proposals is to combine the two schools. We would actually have the pre-K 2 grades at the existing Franklin campus, and then we would actually move the grades 3 through 5 to Lathrop. The concept then is actually really become a modified at the Romero Cruz Academy. And as you know, many of our K-8 schools within the school district actually have the highest enrollment and the greatest demand. And so as we listen to the community and our parents, frequently they talk about it as a school configuration. So that's kind of what this slide is kind of addressing, some of the changes that we're planning to do. Some of the other improvements that we're doing that actually benefit the community and others as well is that we're actually improving some of the playgrounds, we're adding some restroom buildings, and we're expanding significantly the parking. As you know, because Franklin is one of the oldest and kind of antiquated schools in the district, it actually has no parking on campus on that entire block. And so we're actually expanding the campus, the parking for the campus offering so that it allows us to improve opportunities for our parents and visitors to come and participate in the school, participate in the district wellness center. Again, I referenced Susie Lopez Guerra earlier. She is actually in charge of our FACE program, and she actually has her main district FACE center here at Lathrop. And that actually, in the proposal, would actually move across the street to the main older Franklin building and really opening that building up to many types of different services and amenities that they currently can't accommodate in their current location across the street in the classrooms at Lathrop. But so this slide just quickly goes through a little bit what I alluded to earlier. As you know, we actually had some adjustments with the Remington campus. We actually moved students off the campus during construction. And then as a result of it, when we asked parents about whether they wanted to come back to Remington, everybody decided to stay where they actually had been displaced to. And so it gave us an opportunity to move the Advanced Learning Academy to that campus and allow them to expand. And again, that was in conjunction with the Santa Ana College, which allowed our students to do a quasi type of middle college configuration where high school students can earn academic credit for college concurrent with their high school courses. So the other thing that we had at the time, which many of these things kind of came up together, is the Reach Academy was located in a series of buildings that actually weren't certified by the state. That actually creates a whole host of problems. And so what we did, as soon as we made this known, we actually shared this with the board immediately. And the board said, what can we do? And the board took quick action. We fixed, this is one of the quickest projects I've ever seen. The board immediately switched it so that the students weren't in those uncertified buildings and put them in what was the former Romero Cruz campus. So the Romero Cruz students that were on that small campus, those students were the ones that ultimately were the beginnings of the Romero Cruz Academy. Now, not to confuse everybody, but there was a Romero Cruz elementary school. It was a K-3 school. That school actually moved to what was Spurgeon. And when those two schools combined, they became the Romero Cruz Academy. That's one of our schools that actually has had a significant uptick in its enrollment and has had some very positive things. We didn't actually have an opportunity to have the principal of that school join us tonight, but if you were able to hear her talk about the testimonials and hear students and their experiences, she's very excited and very thrilled about what was going on and the improvements that we were seeing at the Romero Cruz Academy. The other thing that we were able to do was also expand the Jackson School and provide expanded preschool offerings to both our staff and or community members. And so it was really and it's a very unique model, but we were able to expand our preschool offerings at Jackson. And if you haven't seen those facilities, they really are state of the art, very beautiful and ready. We're just waiting for the state to give us final certification. And then we'll be able to have students actually arrive. We're hoping probably at the very beginning of next year in 2021. So that's kind of where we've been and some of the successes that we've had and some of the challenges that we've seen. One of the reasons why we were looking at this concept, and again, we're going slow. We want to make sure we do a lot of community outreach, a lot of conversation with community members and parents and faculty to be able to say, hey, what is it that would make this better? What could we do? How can we resolve this so that when this is done, everybody is as excited about it as the families who actually are attending the Romero Cruz Academy. And so part of the goals of this transition, if it is to be adopted, and obviously strengthen the academic excellence in the program, provide improved social emotional learning, and then obviously the community engagement. Those pieces are key. If we can't make it better, then there's really not any point in making a bunch of changes for change's sake. But the intention is to keep academics a strong focus for these transitions, much like we did at Romero Cruz Academy. So we also have obviously making these schools stronger, and the way that they're configured also allows us to make the schools more efficient, and actually gives more opportunities for students because we're using taxpayer dollars more efficiently, so that students, more money actually gets to the students themselves in the classroom. Obviously, we want to recruit and make this, again, optimization, but improvement of these schools, so that families are, again, reinvigorated and excited about, sending their students to these schools, and they catch the vision about how the district is committed to the absolute best for their children. And then obviously we want to make sure that we continue, as I mentioned before, Dr. Lopez. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a question?
Hi, Orin. Yes, Orin,
Okay.
this is Margarita. We have, I'm just trying to get into the questions that people may have, and you may are planning to address this soon, but we have Janelle Hardy, president of the Henninger Park Neighborhood Association. She wanted to clarify that, there's like several neighborhoods. So Franklin, that school is in the Henninger Park, neighborhood, and Lathrop is in the Wilshire Square neighborhood that are adjacent, but I think her concern is where is the district adding parking to historic Franklin School? So that's one question.
And that's an excellent question. I can answer that one now before questions in the two remaining slides that I have. I only have 2 more slides, so I'll try to be
great. Thank you.
quicker. With regard to the parking, oh, absolutely, absolutely. There is an existing parking lot on the northwest corner of the Lathrop campus. That is just not sufficient for what we need. And so that is the area that we're actually going to do some really nice improvements to the hardcourt area of Lathrop, and then also the field, and really improve those infrastructure, providing a restroom, but also part of that improvement is to expand that parking lot by more than twice. And so we'll be able to get a lot of parking. It's the existing parking lot, so we're not creating or disrupting anything on the Franklin campus at this point. We haven't planned for that. If that's something that the questions or the suggestions might come out of this meeting, that's something that we can take a look at. But at this point, we don't have any plans drawn for any parking other than the expansion of the parking that's in the northwest corner of Lathrop, right along McFadden. The slide that is at hand, the main purpose of trying to expand our FACE center is actually to be able to provide better and more services and permanent services at another campus, more than what we currently are able to provide, where Dr. Lopez Guerra's FACE Center is the district FACE Center at Lathrop. And so we believe this will allow her to expand and actually have more and more permanent facilities that don't have to be broken down and put back up, and that amount of time that is wasted and resources that are wasted as a result of that. And then making the district aware of I guess, the brand identity of how our schools are doing. Schools like Romero Cruz Academy, again, how they've been doing, and that type of brand, just to give them a different offering. If this isn't for them, then obviously we will find the best fit for our families and our students so that they can maximize the success at the district. And so just making this brand awareness, giving them an opportunity to make sure that they know that there's opportunities out there for them at Santa Ana Unified. Again, I think the role of the bond, we're improving our educational district. We didn't have a lot of Measure I dollars focused on these two campuses. But this actually gives us an opportunity through the optimization to try to infuse some cash, improve the classroom so that we've got a more 21st century opportunity. And then also just to update and modernize other facilities.
Orin, this is Margaret again. Orin, if you can go a little bit slower, your pace, because I have our team member, Narcy, who's doing some interpreting.
Yes.
So she's just trying to capture the key points. And then there are just some additional follow-up questions that we have received on the chat.
I'm sorry. And my haste in trying to get done by your 7:30 stop time, that's my fault. So I knew
Okay, so
you were doing interpretation, and yet I went too fast anyway. So
yes, no, and I understand. We did go
how can I
over on
help?
the first
What
part.
was the question you'd like me to answer?
So two questions. One is, so is the field where you're doing the parking improvements, will that be reduced? That's one. So I guess they're referring to the field at Lathrop to accommodate these parking improvements. And second, what about like the crossing guards and crosswalks that will be needed on McFadden for this project? And then I have
again,
Sandra
tonight, we're not
Pochapena who's raised her hand.
Sure. So tonight,
Go ahead,
we're not
Orin, go
necessarily
ahead.
going to- So tonight, we're not going to be able to answer every question, I think. Again, a lot of this for us, because like I said, we're trying to slow the development down to make sure that we are responsive to what the board was hearing, to making sure that we're listening. What are the ideas that the community has, and what suggestions do they have to be able to make these changes the most positive? And so I think for us, what we're looking at is that the current plan, and this actually predates the concept of the optimization for these two schools, is that parking has always been, and we all know that parking is a significant challenge in Santa Ana. And so our faculty, staff, and parents don't have sufficient parking, and so they're forced to park neighbors. So this parking lot project has actually been something that was intended for quite a while. We actually had to rebid it at one point because the cost came in more than we were intending. But so we were allowed all of our parking on the campus. To answer the other question, yes, the field will shrink a little bit. But the way that we're reconfiguring the field, there's not a significant loss in play space. And you'd say, well, you're putting parking on there. Of course, there's some loss of the play space. There is some, but we can actually improve the significance of the efficiency of the parking of the play field itself and how the soccer fields are laid out on the field. But we also are providing other playground equipment and these are like state-of-the-art playground pieces. I think I actually have a picture. Maybe I went through it. This one. So this is one of the ones that we did in the left-hand side of the slide. It was a playground structure that we put in the kindergarten section at Romero Cruz Academy. And these are the ones that we're actually planning for as well. So it allows us to expand the playground opportunities. So give children more areas to play instead of only having to have a limited opportunities. And so that's what the intention is to maximize that. We're also, I think, improves, it gives more offerings for children during their recess and PE periods.
Okay, so we've had a hand raised for a while. Sandra Pochapena, I'm gonna ask to unmute you so that you can ask your question regarding the district's presentation.
Hi, thanks, Margarita.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Thanks. My question was actually referring back to, our trash and oversight issues. So that's when I raised my hand. So thanks, great presentation on SAUSD. Thank you.
Okay, Janelle, I know you have entered information on the chat. I wanted to see if you had any follow-up questions, Janelle Hardy.
Margarita, thank you. Not really. I'm just wondering if they're going to find a way to maybe make it a little easier for drop off. It sounds like maybe there'll be less students at Franklin. And are they anticipating the added parking at Lathrop being used by Franklin parents? So those are two questions off the top of my head right there.
Sure, great questions.
Thank
And
you,
it
Janelle.
does make a lot of sense. By moving some of the students, as you can imagine, to the Lathrop campus, the current Lathrop campus. And we don't know, a lot of these decisions haven't been made. And that's why, it's always worthwhile. We're actually planning to prepare presentations, and we'll come back and visit you again with your permission to actually share with you some of the ideas that we've actually got as we've actually spoken to community members. But the idea is that we're reducing the amount of traffic that actually is going to have to go to the Franklin campus. Again, it is challenging because there is no parking on that campus as it is. And so, yes, the intention is that we would still use, and it would still have a focus of having the parking on the Lathrop campus. It would just be expanded and more efficient as one large parking structure, a parking lot, instead of actually having parking kind of strewn all over. It'll be easier for those who are looking for parking to be able to find it, because it'll be aggregated in that one larger lot instead of trying to find another place elsewhere. We need to do is
Thank you. Thank
being
you very
able
much.
to work with crossing guards and how that would work. Again, those are two. Oh, my pleasure.
Orin, we just have one more point, and then if there's anyone else who has questions for Mr. Williams. Sandra Pochapena added on the chat that her only suggestion is that the schools commemorate their star student Marlon Brando was in Franklin, the original Lathrop school. And Janelle, if she would know that information. So.
And so I guess I don't understand. Was there I think maybe my computer glitch. Was there a question?
Yeah,
Or
well,
I think it was more of a statement.
I think the suggestion is just that the schools commemorate their star student who was Marlon Brando. And then the question is, was Franklin School the original Lathrop school? And so I guess there's some additional research that would be needed. So we're looking at, there's several hands that have been raised. I'm gonna call on Erika Gonzalez first. So go ahead, Erika.
Hi, thank you, Carita. I just want to ask, not sure if it was shown or not, but what location or what side will the parking lot, is it going to be? Because I know there's 2 parking lots on Lathrop already. So are you extending one of those 2, or are you building a whole new parking lot? And then is it going to affect like the sidewalk at all? So that's just my question.
Thank you.
Okay. So Ms. Gonzalez, and I have totally spaced on the name of the street where the parking lot is on the north west corner of the
located at the corner of McFadden and
but it's
Broadway.
Just south of McFadden. You can see it from McFadden.
So
Broadway. Thank you, Kadarius. And that's one of our outstanding
Broadway.
senior planners, Kadarius.
Thank you. Chris Schmidt has a question.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and unmute.
So that's
Hello, you mentioned Jackson Elementary School and expanding the preschool program there. Are there any plans to expand the parking lot at Jackson Elementary School as well?
Hello, Mr. Schmidt. Yes, there are plans to expand the parking lot at Jackson. Again, try to maximize the amount of cars that we can pull off the street and keep them on campus. One of the things that we're also looking at exploring is photovoltaic or solar panel coverings for some of the parking as we expand it to increase the amount of parking at the campus. So yes, there is a plan. It's on the master plan. We don't currently have plans drawn for that, but it really will depend on the need and the board priorities as we go through that. But you know, as far as the overall of the campus, you know where the existing kindergarten space is at Jackson. That's in the general area of where we reconfigured the kindergarten spaces and really made the preschool a nice cluster, and then the kindergarten's a nice pod. And so we made it a lot more efficient, and I would love to give you a tour sometime if you'd care to.
Hi, Orin, this is Margarita again. I wanted to go back to Erica Gonzalez's question. I think I cut you off from having to explain it completely because she was asking about the sidewalks, and just to clarify the location where that parking lot work is scheduled to take place on.
Sure. I think the intention is to really use the existing driveways. I think, and this is something that Kadarius may be able to help me with as well. We may actually need to adjust one of the locations for the driveway in to the parking lot so that we create greater efficiency. But the intention is to minimize the impact to the sidewalk and the perimeter of the school, but actually move the parking again more to the backside of that new wing addition on the northern part of the buildings of the Lathrop campus, the new modular building that's a 2-story building. That is a little bit more challenging as far as supervision is concerned as well. And so using some of that playfield was, you know, the school's best option to be able to expand the space. And the faculty were actually fairly optimistic that that was going to improve some of the supervision for students kind of in that back corner area as well. So hopefully that answered Ms. Gonzalez's question.
Thank you. Are there any other participants who would like to raise their hand and ask a question for for Mr. Williams from SAUSD? And then there's some more exchange on the chat. Mr. Muniz has clarified that the original Lathrop actually faced Main Street when it first opened, and then when the building was deemed unsafe, the new Lathrop was built facing Broadway. So thank you, Mr. Muniz, for that information. And anybody else from the school district team would like to share information or any other updates? I know that Henninger Park will be meeting next month in January, and Wilshire Square typically meets every month. So perhaps there could be, you know, follow up with the individual neighborhoods to be able to present some more detail. If it's available, that'd be a recommendation for the team at SAUSD.
And Margarita, absolutely. That's our intention, is to work with you to schedule meetings for them as well. We know that we can't hit all of them. This one actually was intended to be for January. It's just that my assistant Rosa, who was actually, I forgot to acknowledge her. I'm sorry, Rosa. She was so efficient. She actually got this on for today. And we were really thinking that it was going to be probably more likely that we were going to end up meeting in January. So quite honestly, we'd be happy to come back here or any other neighborhood associations that are interested in any of these projects. We have other projects in other parts of the city that we want to actually reach out and hear what the neighbors have to say about those as well. Just for today, that's why I left it on this last slide. These are our office numbers. So if you'd love to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. If there's other persons that aren't listed that you know that you can reach out to and you're familiar with, feel free to do that. I'm sure that they'll share the information back with us in the construction and planning departments. But from the facilities perspective, we'd love to hear what you have to say, thoughts, good and bad, so that we can make whatever we're doing the best that it can be for Santa Ana.
And Orin, I'd like to add as well, we have met with the staff. We've met with some parents. We plan on meeting again with staffs, both staffs from Lathrop and Franklin, and then continue parent meetings as well. The original plan was to move forward with this optimization plan at the beginning of August. However, after hearing some concerns from some families and from some staff, where we've consulted with district and board members and decided to slow this process down. So we're making an effort now to gather as much information, to have as many conversations as we can, to make sure that we're doing the right thing for with our facilities, as well as making sure that we meet the needs of the students, staff, and community as well. So thank you for this opportunity to share with you guys what we're doing.
Okay, and thank you to all of you at the school district for being available. And yeah, definitely we'll coordinate, with our office to get the follow-up with the other neighborhoods. So thanks so much. So look, everyone, we're like 2 hours and yeah, almost 15 minutes into it. So and most folks are available. So we just wanted to thank everybody for dedicating your Thursday night, with us. Very important in-depth discussions that we had tonight, and that was the intent of accomplishing that with our homelessness discussion for sure. So we will coordinate another meeting. I did get an update from Public Works that the South Main Improvements Project, that meeting will not go until probably after February. The city received a protest on one of the bids, so that's delaying it. So I just wanted to share that. But yeah, Mr. Nabil Saba, our executive director, is still very interested once that sorts out to come back to the group. So it would be something like this to talk about the South Main improvements. So with that, we wanted to wish you all a good night. Stay safe, wear your mask, and yeah, have a safe holiday if we don't talk then, and just be safe. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.